All right, let's head down south today
Oh, sounds fun. Where are we going?
to Macomb, Alabama. We're taking a deep dive into, well, you know it, To Kill a Mockingbird.
The classic.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at why. I mean, yeah, most people have probably read it, but we're going deeper.
Beyond the surface, right?
Exactly. For all you literature students out there, we're talking themes, historical context, symbolism, the whole works.
I think that's really important because a lot of times To Kill a Mockingbird gets taught as just a coming-of-age story.
Yeah, and it is that, sure.
But there's just so much more to it. It operates on so many different levels. It's what makes it such a great book.
Absolutely. And to really dig into that, we've got to think about when and where the story happens.
You mean the setting?
Yeah, the setting. It's the 1930s in the South.
The Jim Crow era.
Right. So racial segregation, discrimination, it was everywhere.
Woven right into the fabric of society.
Exactly. And you can't understand the characters or what happens in the book without understanding that.
It's essential context.
Think about Scout.
Our narrator.
Yeah, you see this innocent kid's view of the world, but it keeps clashing with this harsh reality.
She doesn't understand it.
Right. Like when she doesn't get why she can't play with Walter Cunningham at school.
Oh, right.
Lee uses those moments to show us just how absurd prejudice is.
Through the eyes of a child.
Yes. And then, of course, you have the trial.
Tom Robinson's trial.
Yeah. This is where all the racial injustice comes to a head. It's not just some plot device. It's the heart of the story.
A microcosm of the South in that era.
Right. And you see right from the start, the legal system is stacked against Tom, no matter how hard Atticus tries.
Well, and that's what makes Atticus such an interesting character.
He is, isn't he?
He's like this moral compass in a totally messed up world.
But he's still part of that world.
Yeah, he's working within a system that's flawed to its core.
Not some superhero who can just fix everything.
Exactly. He's a lawyer doing his best in a society built on injustice.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. Like, how do you fight a system like that? What can one person really do?
Big questions that Lee makes us grapple with.
And that's what makes To Kill a Mockingbird so thought-provoking.
Okay, but let's move on to the characters for a sec. I mean, wow, Lee just brings them to life.
Each and every one. Scout, Jem, Boo Radley, even the smaller roles like Miss Maudie or Calpurnia.
They feel so real.
They do, and they each help us understand the big themes of the book.
Like Boo Radley.
Oh, he's a great example.
You start out thinking he's this scary, mysterious guy.
All the rumors swirling around him.
But then, as Scout gets to know him, you see him differently.
More human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He becomes a symbol of how people can be misunderstood, how they can be pushed to the margins.
Like the mockingbird.
Right. Like Atticus says, it's a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Innocence, purity, anyone who's vulnerable and gets treated unfairly.
That's what the mockingbird represents,
Yeah.
and that's what happens to Tom Robinson, to Boo Radley.
To Scout and Jem, even, as they grow up.
It's that coming-of-age element again.
Right, that loss of innocence.
Scout goes from seeing the world as this simple place to realizing just how complex and, well, unfair it can be.
But it's not just about race.
No, it's so much more than that.
It's about class, gender roles, education, and the power of empathy.
All those things are woven into Scout's journey.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this rich historical context, these incredibly developed characters dealing with some heavy stuff, but there's something else we need to talk about.
What's that?
Lee's writing itself. It's just beautiful.
You're right. Her language is amazing. It's simple, but it's so powerful.
It sounds effortless.
But there's such depth to it. That's what makes this book a true work of art.
One thing I love is how she captures the Southern way of speaking.
That rhythm and cadence.
It just pulls you right into Macomb.
And she uses all these techniques, foreshadowing, symbolism, irony.
To create layers of meaning.
Nothing feels like it's there by accident.
It's all deliberate. Every detail matters.
Like the mockingbird.
Yeah, it's more than just a bird.
It's a symbol that runs throughout the whole book.
And it connects the characters and themes in such a profound way.
For lit students, it's worth paying attention to those details. How does Lee use language to create the atmosphere, build characters, convey complex ideas?
Yeah, it's like a masterclass in writing.
It really is.
And the way she describes Macomb,
the setting.
you feel like you're right there, you know, smelling the honeysuckle, feeling the heat.
This vivid world. It's familiar, but also strange, comforting, and unsettling at the same time.
And beautiful, but with this undercurrent of darkness.
It's a world where childhood innocence is both cherished and destroyed.
And it's not just the setting. It's the characters, too.
How they act, how they talk.
It feels so real.
You feel like you know them.
Yeah, and that's what makes this story so powerful.
You're not just reading it, you're experiencing it with them.
You feel their joy, their pain, their wins and losses.
And that makes you think, makes you feel the message of the book even more deeply.
It stays with you.
It does. It really does. And that's what makes To Kill a Mockingbird such a powerful tool for teaching empathy.
You really get pulled into Scout's world.
You see everything through her eyes, so you start to question your own assumptions.
Yeah, you realize how easy it is to have biases you don't even know about.
Exactly. And it's not just about understanding racism in the South.
It goes deeper than that.
It's about understanding human nature itself.
How fear and prejudice can twist your view of the world.
And that's where the courtroom scenes are so important.
The trial.
Yeah, they show us how prejudice can worm its way into even the legal system.
Like, the law is supposed to be fair, but
But it's not always. Tom Robinson's trial shows us that.
you see Atticus doing his best, being ethical, but it's not enough.
The jury is blinded by their prejudice.
So it's a lesson in how limited the law can be when it comes to deep-seated bias.
Absolutely. And that's something for all you literature students to think about.
How does Lee use the trial to expose the hypocrisy in Macon?
Yeah, how does she build the tension? Through the dialogue, the characters, the pacing.
It's masterfully done.
It is. And think about the different characters who testify.
Oh, yeah, like Bob Ewell.
Driven by poverty, ignorance, hatred.
You get the sense he was always going to accuse someone.
Probably. And then there's Mayella.
Trapped by her situation.
Manipulated by her father.
It's just sad.
It is. And then you have Tom Robinson himself.
A good man.
An honest man.
Just trying to do the right thing.
But it's not enough.
Not against the racism he faces.
It's heartbreaking to see what happens to him.
It is. And it shows you the real cost of a system built on white supremacy.
The human cost.
And we see all that through Jim's eyes, too.
Yeah, his reaction to the verdict.
You feel his disillusionment.
Like he can't believe what just happened.
He thought the world was fair, and then, bam.
His faith is shattered.
It's like a punch to the gut.
It really is. And that's what makes the novel so powerful.
It hits you on an emotional level.
It's not just some intellectual exercise.
It's about real people, real pain.
And it reminds you that the fight for justice is hard.
It doesn't always have a happy ending.
No, it doesn't. But even though Atticus can't fix the whole system,
He still tries.
he does.
He shows us what moral courage looks like.
Standing up for what's right, even when everyone else is against you.
He's a role model.
He is. For Scout, for Jem, for us.
Shows us how to navigate a world where things aren't always fair.
And that brings us back to perspective.
Wow.
To Kill a Mockingbird keeps shifting our perspective as we read.
Like we're seeing the world through different lenses.
Yeah, we start with Scout's innocent view, but as she grows up, so does our understanding.
It's like we're learning alongside her.
Exactly. We're constantly reevaluating what we think we know.
Like how we see Boo Radley.
Oh, he's a perfect example.
At first, he's this creepy figure, then a symbol of innocence.
Then protector.
And all that is filtered through Scout's changing perspective.
It's brilliant.
And that last scene when she walks him home.
Stands on his porch, seeing the world as he might see it.
Chills.
It's a moment of pure empathy.
Realizing that someone you were scared of.
Is actually a human being with their own story.
A good reminder to step outside our own narrow views.
It really is. But To Kill a Mockingbird isn't just about understanding other people.
What else then?
It's about understanding ourselves.
Oh, I see.
Confronting our own prejudices.
The ones we might not even realize we have.
Exactly. And that's why it's still so relevant today.
It's not just a history lesson.
No, it's a call to action.
To look at our own role in systems of oppression.
To question our assumptions. To fight for a fairer world.
Yeah, it's not enough to just read the book and feel bad about what happened.
I have to take those lessons and actually do something.
Make a change.
Exactly.
And Lee does such a great job of making us think about all that, prompting that self-reflection.
Oh, yeah.
Through her use of symbolism.
I know symbolism, right?
We already talked about the mockingbird.
Yeah.
But there's other symbols, too, woven through the whole story.
Right, adding all these layers of meaning.
Which is what makes it so good for, really studying literature.
Absolutely.
So, like, take the mad dog.
Tim Johnson.
Yeah, Tim Johnson, the one Atticus has to shoot.
Oh, right.
On the one hand, it's a real danger.
Threat to the town.
But it's also a symbol, isn't it?
It is.
Of what?
Of prejudice, out of control,
Uh-huh.
mob mentality.
Yeah, like when people let their fear and hatred take over.
Exactly.
And it's almost like that scene foreshadows what happens later.
With the trial, with Tom Robinson.
Yeah, the violence he faces.
It's subtle, but it's definitely there.
And it's those little touches that make To Kill a Mockingbird more than just a coming-of-age story.
Right. Elevate it to art.
Yeah, high art. And speaking of, how about the structure of the book?
What do you mean?
It's not a straight timeline, is it?
No, it jumps around.
Past and present all mixed together.
Scout's memories as a kid, her reflections as an adult.
It's like we're putting the pieces together with her.
Trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, and that adds to the complexity, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And it lets Lee use dramatic irony, too.
Where we know things the characters don't.
Yeah, like with Boo Radley again.
We get information that Scout doesn't have yet.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It does, creates that suspense.
Makes you wonder what's going to happen.
And it also plays with memory, you know? Is Scout a reliable narrator?
Hmm.
How do her experiences as a child shape her view of things?
Good question.
Those are the kinds of things literature students should be thinking about.
Exactly. Because To Kill a Mockingbird isn't just a book you passively read.
No, you have to engage with it.
Question it. Draw your own conclusions.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest questions it raises is,
Yeah.
what does it even mean to be a good person in a world that's so unfair?
Yeah, good word.
We often see Atticus as the moral center of the story.
Right, the good guy.
But even he isn't perfect.
So he's stuck in that system too, right?
Exactly. He can't change everything.
So he's not some flawless hero.
No, he's human.
Just trying to do his best.
And I think that makes him even more inspiring, somehow.
Because it's more realistic.
Yeah, he shows us that morality isn't about following rules blindly.
It's about more than that.
It's about empathy, compassion, doing the right thing, even when it's hard.
Which is something we all struggle with, I think.
We do, and that's why this book still matters, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just about Maycomb in the 1930s.
It applies to today.
Exactly, it's about the challenges we face now.
Social justice, inequality, all of that.
It reminds us that the fight for a better world never really ends.
It's ongoing.
And it takes courage and a willingness to question things, to shake things up.
And To Kill a Mockingbird reminds us that stories can change things.
They can. They can open our minds, make us see things differently.
Make us want to be better.
Absolutely.
So to all you lit students out there, keep these lessons in mind as you read.
Yeah, let them guide you, not just with this book, but with everything.
Ask questions. Don't take things at face value.
And try to see the world through other people's eyes.
Like Atticus says, you never really understand someone.
Until you walk a mile in their shoes.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And with that, we'll leave you to keep exploring To Kill a Mockingbird.
Let its message of hope and empathy stay with you.
And inspire you to make the world a little bit better.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.